you're looking at $130,000 to $150,000 home. With the new loan product you guys provide as well, that 5% down really cuts down a lot of barriers into entry for investors, I think, and just the risk tolerance.
Hey, Renter Retires, it's Adam Schroeder here with another episode, and you'll notice that I'm not joined by Zach Lee Master, the founder and CEO of Renter Retirement, but I wanted to bring on the team leader for our Ohio properties, and his name is Steve, and he is here to talk to us about what's going on in his market, but also how you can use the loan product we've talked about a lot in Alabama and Florida. You can also use in his market and get some impressive results. But first off, Steve, good to see you again, man.
Yeah, man, good to see you. It was fun at the Bigger Pockets conference this year. Got to meet the family, so that was always exciting. Thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. So when people look at Ohio, a lot of times they don't find it too sexy. They see it. They see, affordable homes. They see good rents. They see positive cash flow. And it's starting, the Akron area going down into Canton and some of the Barberton and Massillon areas. I've noticed whenever I've looked at demographic research that things have started turning. The population over the last 2 years has, gone positive and is moving up. I know we've talked a little bit about some of the development that's happening, but tell us a little bit about kind of what's going on in that area that's actually leading to this turnaround that people are seeing, which they may not have heard of because a lot of people don't research too much about Ohio. No offense.
Hey, I understand that, not everyone likes the cold weather. Yes, I'm wearing a hoodie. We're starting that season where we get those cold temperatures. But yeah, we have had an increase in population over the past few years. I think it's just the affordability, right? People want to be able to afford to live and then still be able to do something, not just, hey, I'm paying $3,000 a month in rent for a 600 square foot studio. If you paid $3,000 in rent in Akron, Ohio, I don't know what that would get you, but it would get you a ton. So I think that's kind of driving some of the factors that people want to be here because it's affordable to live and they're still able to have money to go out to eat and do other things with their friends and family. And then a lot of employers are coming to the area, and Canton especially. I know everyone knows about the Pro Football Hall of Fame, right? They've done like a Hall of Fame village. So they've bought tons of houses over the past probably 5 to 10 years, leveled it all around the Hall of Fame area, and they're trying to make it like a year-round attraction. So it's a $600 million project, and that's backed by the NFL, the city of Canton, and some other investors. Really changing the area around there. It's kind of like a place to go on a regular basis now, not just, hey, we're going to the Football Hall of Fame every 5 years to check it out. But it's like you can go there nightly and find restaurants, shops, other things like that. Always have kids sporting events going on. So they're inviting all the travel sports these days. And they have tons of fields, indoor and outdoor. They built a dome as well there. So it's trying to make it a year-round activity, more of a destination spot. That's going to provide at least 5,000 new jobs they're projecting. So we've already started to see that. Plus the Amazon Center was recently put into the East Canton area. So it was a $137 million project, bringing over 1,000 jobs to the area. Not to mention the one we got in Akron a couple of years ago as well, kind of similar specs on that. I think it's some of the driving factors. Obviously, there's other large employers in the area, but just I think the general affordability and population growth, and people are redeveloping areas here, which is awesome.
Yeah, and especially you talk about bringing in all these jobs, but then you talk about the NFL destroying homes and getting rid of those, which obviously leads to the inventory shortage that's going to be good for homeowners and investors in that area as well.
Yeah, they probably took out 300 to 400 homes, maybe even more around that Canton Hall of Fame area, and they just keep buying up blocks at a time, which is driving people, to find new housing, whether that's, homeowners or renters. Canton's kind of split up in that 50-50 mix, 50% homeowners, 50% renters. So there's definitely demand to live around that Canton area. Akron's pretty similar as well.
Now, you were spouting off some facts about home prices and rents and everything at me before we got started. Obviously, I don't remember everything off the top of my head, but I know you do since you're there on a regular basis. So tell us a little bit about what this turnaround that we're touching on here has actually led to already? Because based on what I've seen, there hasn't been a huge turnaround yet, which tends to lead me to believe that there might be a little bit, there's still some runway left on this.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of getting in at the ground floor, if you'd say. Like you said, recently the population started to turn with increased population growth in the city. And it's not to say that suburbs weren't growing around Akron, because we also do, flips in the suburbs, like Cuyahoga Falls, Barberton, one of my favorite places, as you know. But either way, the stat from last year was home values in Canton went up 8.6%, which is a huge, increase for around here. Medium home prices in the 130s range. Usually when you get outside into the suburbs, they'll go up from there. But yeah, the average rents went up 8% as well. So, I mean, everything's on the increase. You're not getting the 25% appreciation like a Florida market or something like that, but you're still gaining that cash flow and that everyday appreciation. And I think the affordability factor for investors really helps too, because you're looking at $130,000 to $150,000 home. With the new loan product you guys provide as well, that 5% down really cuts down a lot of barriers into entry for investors, I think, and just the risk tolerance, in my opinion.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, you mentioned the kind of Canton rent growth, but when it comes to, I know you're very in tune with the property management side of things with your team. What kind of rent growth are we looking at? Are we looking at like 25, 50, 75, 100? What kind of rent growth should people actually be expecting whenever they're buying in areas like Akron, Barberton, Canton, those areas?
Yeah, so usually the property management team looks at, hey, has the tenant been paying on time? What's going on with them? Just double checking through all the factors that go into, having a good tenant. And typically we recommend a $25 increase per year. Yeah, you might be able to get $50 or $100, but if you have a good tenant, vacancy kills all cash flow, right? Because it'd be zero. So we always try to make sure we keep good tenants in the house. So sometimes we always recommend that $25 increase and then get them to sign a new year lease. Because a lot of times tenants aren't going to move over $25 a month, right? It would cost you more to move than that $25 would.
That's not the tenant you want, is the tenant who moves over $25.
Yeah. So we always try to recommend that $25 increase. If you want, you can always increase it more. We just know that usually $25 doesn't, it helps your cash flow, but doesn't swing the scales to where the tenant's like, really, you're going to raise it $200, So we try to keep them modest increases. I think $25 of the $1,200 divided by 25. I'm sorry, 25 divided by $1,200. Let's start that over. We cut that.
It's something like 2% or so.
Yeah,
I think it's somewhere around there.
Yeah, so a 2% increase.
Yeah, that's solid. I mean, that's about what we expect in areas like that. 2-3% is, which, I mean, whenever you're leveraged, that's pretty significant. So you mentioned the 5%, which is one of the things that we were wanting to get into, and I want to dive into the numbers, but also kind of the things that you're offering that go along with it to make sure that everything's safe for investors. Because as we know, when you're 95% leveraged, you've got either negative cash flow or maybe break even cash flow. And this is something that we did check with the bank. They're happy to lend on products at the price point you're talking about, the age of the homes, because as we know, I don't know, is there any new construction going on there? I know the build price, it doesn't make sense in a lot of cases, but is there any new construction happening there? Because I know some people have been like, I'm a little worried it's an older home, but really everything's that age, right?
Right. Every home's, that old. And something kind of was interesting. Someone told me a while ago, they're like, in the Midwest, you have all these old homes because there's never like a disaster that destroys the home, right? You don't have a hurricane that wipes everything out and then everything gets rebuilt. These are homes that have been here and there's no major catastrophes that are happening to wipe out, huge sections of town, like a hurricane or something of that nature. So typically you have these homes that have been here for 100 plus years. I know my rentals that I own are all in the same age range, the 1900s. They're all around 100 years old. There are some new builds, not a ton. I know around like the the zoo area in Akron, where LeBron James just built his new apartment building. There are some new build homes over there as well. So there are select pockets where there are new builds. A lot of the suburbs that have land, that's where you're going to find the new builds. You go outside the city 20 minutes, and that's where all the new developments are. Is pretty typical. But there are a few developments inside the city where they're kind of revitalizing and doing that kind of stuff.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and dive into it, because I know people are wanting to see the numbers because they've seen the numbers on some of the new construction, and they're not the typical numbers. So this is one, and people don't get mad if when this gets released, this property is not available. Steve has properties similar to this all the time, as he mentions.
Yep.
He's doing it in these markets, but let's go into it. This is one in Akron. It's $125,000. It's in a solid neighborhood. We'll rent for $1,150, and y'all are usually fairly conservative on the rents, right? This isn't a pie in the sky number.
No, I mean, if you look at anywhere in Akron, you can't get a house for under $1,100. This is one of the old photos. We've updated the porch and the roof and the whole inside of the house.
Please note, if you're watching this on YouTube and not just listening to the podcast, it clearly says here pre-rehab photos. So keep that in mind as he talks about the front. So, this is the scope of work. Let's go down to that real quick. Got new roof, new furnace, new hot water tank, new bathrooms, new kitchen floors, new paint, new lights. So significant overhaul.
Furnace went in, hot water tank. A lot of new plumbing had to be cut out and put in new. So we always make sure that the plumbing's up to standards. And sometimes if they have old galvanized lines, you got to drop all the water lines and put in new. We put in PEX lines.
Yeah. So with 25% down, we're estimating that you're going to be positive cash flow quite a bit. I mean, a little bit less than what we see here because the interest rate's going to be higher, but you're going to be in the positive fairly significantly, even if you're at 7.5%, 8%, wherever you are. But what we wanted to touch on today was the 5%. And unfortunately, I don't have one created of this exact one, but I use a little spreadsheet for myself that I'm going to show here in a second. And this is actually what the loan would look like if you were using the 5% down option. Because you got $125,000 for the price point, $1,150 for the rent. With 5% down right now, the interest rate that the bank has told us is 9.5%. So at 9.5%, 5% down, even with $5,000 in origination and prepaids, you're still looking at getting a property for just over $11,000. Now, property taxes in Ohio, Steve, I couldn't believe this whenever you told me, but these are real. This is a legitimate property tax number, right?
Yeah, we pulled it off the auditor's website. Most of the taxes will go anywhere from that 500. Same for Canton. They're from the 500 range to like the 1,200-1,300 range, depending on the area. I mean, there's some that were closer to 2,000. I think the highest one I've seen, we did a triplex that was like $2,500.
As someone who lives in Texas, that's disgusting.
I don't even know. I have no idea what property taxes are elsewhere. Anytime I see like $1,200, $1,300 plus, I get disgusted.
Well, as someone who lives in Texas and is investing in Florida, I can tell you 600 is it's less than my monthly payment here in Texas. So I'll accept that and move on. So we got the ridiculously low property taxes. We've got insurance for $600-$700 a year. And now you may be asking, this is positive $3 a month. Not that sexy, but you're also, remember, you're in the deal for $11,000.
5% down, can't find that anywhere. It's I take a lot of like private money loans for rehabbing these homes, and I have to put down more than 5% on a rehab on a house I'm going to rehab. So I mean, to put 5% down is just unbelievable.
And now a lot of people, if you're watching this and seeing it, you'll notice that my maintenance is set at 1%. And a lot of times this is the thing I talked about with Steve whenever he was asking if he could do this product. And it was really, we got to make sure that the maintenance is virtually non-existent, because we don't want people to go negative on these. Because especially, 100-year-old homes, little things pop up here and there. And so I twisted Steve's arm a little bit. and we are offering. He is including in this deal a 210 warranty. So that 1% that I have there, which you can see comes out to about $140 a year, will cover a service fee of someone coming out to you. And I mean, Steve, I know there's a lot of check marks here, but tell us some of the big things that this covers that would be key to investors.
I mean, I think plumbing systems are always big ones, and electrical systems, right? Those are always big ones. I think in rentals, most maintenance calls are usually plumbing and electrical related. These are homes that are inspected by professional inspectors that make sure everyone gets an inspection. But until you put the load of, people plugging in an AC, the furnace kicking on, the hair dryer, you're flushing 5-6 people's waste down the toilet, more things happen. So it's always nice to have this backup coverage in case it is needed. I think those are the big ones. We put in new appliances, we put in new furnaces, we put in new hot water tanks. So those usually are not issues. I've had a few hot water tanks go, but they were under warranty, so we just swapped them out. No worse for the wear, but when you put in 100 hot water tanks, there's a little bit of a failure rate, right?
Yeah.
So
that's not a Steve failure rate. That's just
that's just
a general failure rate. I mean, yeah, something's not going to be right whenever you get that many.
Yeah, they at Home Depot just takes them right back. So
yeah. So, I mean, this is one of the things, a lot of times people, even with the new builds that we have going on, you're still talking about being in the deal for, significant, not significant, but still, $20,000-$25,000 all in. You're looking at, negative several $100s a month cash flow. And so we wanted to figure out a way that we could bring properties to our investors at much lower entry points. And Steve is at the moment the only person we're doing this with because he's our most trusted rehab team that we have out there. Don't blush too hard, Steve.
Just a big smile.
Yeah, but I mean, he legitimately is. His team is the most trusted rehab team that we have out there. And so if you can get into a rental property for $11,000, I mean, they only require a couple of months principal, interest, tax, and insurance reserves. So your reserves don't have to be crazy high. And now remember, you're only allowed to get 5. So take that for what it's worth. You can't go ahead and jump in and get 10 Steve properties right off the bat with 5% down.
I think we're only going to roll out 10 of them, I think is what we're going to start with, 10 to 15, see what happens from there.
Yep. So, you can jump in and get his first 5 and see where it goes from there. But so I think this is a good thing for most investors to know. I know we've been promoting the 5% for a while, but it's always been about new builds. We found a way to make it where you could actually, get into a rehab. And just remember, you also don't have to put down just 5%. You could always put in 10% at these price points. The great part is it doesn't require that much extra capital to put in to get that 10%, which puts you more positive. Obviously, the more you put in, the more positive you go. Mm-hmm. But it's a great option. Steve, tell us a little bit. Is there anything that we haven't touched on when it comes to your markets or your rehabs that you want to tell people?
Yeah, I think there's something huge that we didn't talk about. We have the management fees. Some people are going to point out that is 0%. That's one of the incentives I'm offering for the first 12 months. We give you a 0% management fee. So typically we're at 8% management fee. So that's kind of where we fall around. So that's something I think is huge to help make sure you're near that positive cash flow. Is something that we're doing on our end to step up. I always do the rent guarantees as well. So if for some reason the rent would come in on this case at $1,100, we take $50 times 12 months and write the check for that difference. Doing the same deal on this as well. So we're going to guarantee those rent numbers for the first year.
Fantastic. Well, Steve, I appreciate you coming on. To everybody else, if you want to see these numbers broken down a little bit more and you're only listening on the audio podcast, hop over to YouTube. We're going to have it there. If you go on the website, you will see the properties that we have that have the 5% down option. Hopefully after the first 10 or 15, we'll see it's going well and we'll continue rolling them out as they come in. But really appreciate you joining me today, Steve.
Thanks
Great talking with you. Great seeing you all the time. To everybody else, check us out at renttoretirement.com. You can go to our inventory tab and see what we've got there, both Steve and other inventory. You can see it right there at renttoretirement.com. Don't forget, we also have launched the Rent to Retirement Academy, where you can get all sorts of real estate knowledge, more than you probably ever wanted to know, but good stuff to have. And if you buy a property within the first 6 months, we refund 90% of that fee back to you in terms of a seller credit. So you're pretty much getting a full real estate education for like $250 or $300.
Pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
Pennies on the dollar. That's a huge value. People don't understand how much knowledge you guys have at Rent to Retirement, and how much experience you have in investing, from yourself to the other, investment counselors. The knowledge is always second to none.
Yeah. And we have not just us. We brought in our tax specialists. We brought in our cost segregation specialists. I mean, we brought in anybody and everybody you could imagine. So it's not just my beautiful face or Zach's beautiful face on there. There's other beautiful faces as well. So really appreciate it. Don't forget, check it out, Rent to Retirement Academy, all of the properties at renttoretirement.com. Really appreciate the time you spent educating yourselves today, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.
Thanks for watching the Rent to Retirement YouTube channel. Check out some of our other videos, like this one, or this one here.